us as we missed you. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Sports Advocates. I'm Manistee News Advocate and Benzie County Record Creator, sports reporter Mitch Vosburg. Flanked as always, a 90-degree angle by sports writer McLain Moberg. McLain, it's officially March. 2 more months of winter, though, but 2 more months of winter, but how we feeling?
It's March Madness, man. First up here, high school basketball, of course, before we get into, the big bracket, of course, that maybe we'll break down at some point. But right now, if everybody listened last week, they'll know we broke down those girls' brackets. This week, we're bringing you the boys' stuff. And, we're going to get started here with the district hosted by Bear Lake.
Absolutely. And before we get started again, like we said last week, no ill wishes toward any teams, no bad blood whatsoever. It's just, we've watched these teams from December up until now. We feel we have some sort of a pulse on what these teams are going to look like, how it's going to go. So that's kind of the base of our conversation. So, how are we looking first for the Bear Lake District?
Yeah, man, the opener here is Manistee Catholic Central, who is 8-13 overall right now with a regular season game left, and Brethren, who is 10-9 overall right now with a regular season game left. Now, the funny part about this, Mitch, is that the regular season showdown is MCC boys versus Brethren, and the district opener is MCC boys versus Brethren. So these two teams are going to get to see each other 3 times this year. So far, without knowledge of that second game, the first time these two teams played was January 27th. Brethren won 64-28.
I watched that one.
Absolutely. And to me, the players to watch here on both sides, Brethren's got really talented individuals like Jack Mazzaros, Connor Wojciechowski, Garrett Mobley, Clayton Mobley, Kenyon Brown and kids like that. And MCC, you've got Riker Kapling, Lee Pizzana, Matt Gunya, and those other kids as well. And shout out to Jackson Starchief, who is just a low down low and has just an awesome name, in my opinion. Now, the prediction for this game, for me, Mitch, I want to see that second game to kind of get a better feel, I feel like you're going to have more of a pulse by seeing that. But currently, as it stands before that game takes place, I think I'm going to take Brethren in this matchup. I think MCC, has an ability to win that second game, and that's kind of why I want to see that. They've made some decisions, lineup decisions that are differently than last time. As we discussed the other day, Lee Pizzana is now the point guard, according to head coach Nick Fortier over there, and so that changes some things up. So, I guess the biggest question is here, does MCC tie up that regular season? Does Brethren take all 3? I think it's an interesting matchup. But both these teams have similar strengths as well. Both of their strengths are defense. And so it just depends. But I think I'm going to give the edge here to the Bobcats offense compared to the MCC offense. And so I'm taking Brethren.
Yeah, look, I love MCC's pieces, like the kids you mentioned about a minute ago. For me, look, MCC got the best of Brethren in football. I think Brethren gets the best of MCC in basketball. Give me the Bobcats here to advance. It's not going to be as lopsided as that first game was. Second game, like you mentioned, I kind of want to see that too, to see how everything fares out. But give me the Bobcats over the Sabres.
All right, Mitch. Well, in the first semifinal game here, we've got Onekama versus Bear Lake. Onekama is 12-9 right now. Bear Lake is 8-13. Now, the only meeting between these two teams took place on January 23rd. Onekama won 74-34. For Onekama, you've got kids like Caden Bradford, Luke Bradford, Arden Bradford, a lot of Bradfords. Adam Dahmers, Dante Gray. We will not be seeing Sawyer Christensen this tournament, Mitch, as you informed me of last night. He's got a cast on which hand again?
His right hand, his dominant hand.
Okay. And then for Bear Lake, really, really young team here. To me, some of their more talented players are their freshmen with Miles Harless and Grady Harless, and then you've got Zach Griffiths and 2 seniors in Nathaniel Ruiz and Keegan Johnson. Currently for me, I've got Onekama in this one. I think their experience of Dahmers, Gray, and the Bradfords, who all gained invaluable experience last year on a consistent basis, win this out. I really like Bear Lake. I'm going to be honest here. I think they are one of those teams rising up, and they're going to become one of those teams in this county that starts winning a lot of games sooner rather than later. But to me, this feels like the year before the year for the Lakers, and I think the Portagers advance in the finals in a tough out in the Lakers. This is not going to be a blowout or anything by any means. I think Bear Lake is going to give it their all here and make this a close one.
So, of the 14 basketball teams in our coverage area, I've got to watch 13 this year. The one I didn't get to watch at all was Bear Lake boys. So I'm not going to speak too much of them because, again, I got to stay in my lane and know my role and shut my mouth, as the great one would say. I do know the identity of Bear Lake as a whole is just absolutely gritty. With Onekama, though, I really like the Portagers here make a little bit of a run. I know without Sawyer Christensen it's going to hurt because, a lot of that chemistry with that senior class, he's a big piece of that. But Tyler Hart, freshman for them, has been really starting to get clicking. I was at the game last night. He led the team in points with 21, shot 9 of 10 from the floor. He's starting to come into his own a little bit, which excites me. Again, like you mentioned, with all three of those Bradfords. So yeah, give me the Porters in this one.
Well, that leads us to the second semifinal game here, where we have Brethren versus Frankfort. Brethren's 10-9, as we mentioned earlier, and Frankfort is 12-8 right now. These two teams did meet in the regular season. Mitch Vosburg was in attendance, I believe. Mm-hmm. February 13th, Frankfort won 79-45. To me, players to watch for here for Frankfurt: Xander Sauer, Nick Stevenson, Adam Townsend, Carter Kirby, Bryce Plesha. On the other side, as we mentioned earlier, if you want to hear those kids' names again, please rewind the tape here. But the prediction, the last time these two teams met, Frankfurt came downstate to defeat the Bobcats by the score that we just mentioned on their home floor. I assume this taste is still in Brethren's mouth, especially with J.J. Randall at the helm. I don't think he's going to let them forget about that as this matchup approaches, if they're able to take care of business in that first game against MCC. But in terms of this matchup, I don't think there's going to be two teams more prepared for each other in this district. It's like they say in boxing, style makes the fight. And I think this is going to be one with Frankfurt just edging Brethren out in the final moments, putting them in position to win its third district title in a row and fourth district title appearance in a row. People forget the Panthers made the district finals against Brethren in 2020 before the pandemic wiped that game out. That game was never played. One more additional fun fact here. Maybe not so fun for Bobcats fans, but Frankfurt has knocked Brethren out of the playoffs for the past 2 years and has a chance to do so here again. Mitch, are the Bobcats due against the Panthers?
I don't know if due is the right word, but Dan Loney told me after that game where they put up the game's first 20 points that they're going to see a totally different Bobcats team. He knows it because he knows JJ's a fiery guy. The big thing I think with Frankfurt this year especially has been the emergence of Carter Kirby at point guard. I think early on the year, I think it took a little while because again, you're asking like a 15-year-old sophomore to grab the full reins of a Frankfurt program that historically has done really well and has the expectation and the standard to do well. When I saw him play against Brethren, it seemed like things began to click for him. The only other matchup I could see too being an issue would be Garrett Mobley and Bryce Plesha, but that's one that's just fun to watch. It's going to be a tight one, but I think Frankfurt pulls away by 5.
Okay. That brings us to the district finals here, which based on our prediction leaves us with Frankfurt and Onekama. As we mentioned before, these teams have a boatload of talented individuals. They do have a meeting. They last met on January 25th where Frankfurt won 58-47, a close battle there. That went down to the wire from my conversations with head coach Nathan Bradford over there at Onekama. Last year, the Portagers were 4 points shy of making their district title appearance since they last won a district title during the 2017-18 season, falling to Brethren in a tight 51-48 battle. Now they face Frankfurt, who beat them in the regular season and has been responsible for a couple of opportunities that were cut short in the playoffs, much like Brethren here in recent years, looking back through the MHSAA website this morning. This is a really tough game to pick for me, but I'll just say this. If Onekama executes, doesn't get sped up, meaning they can stick to their game plan regardless of what Frankfurt wants to do, then I think they give them the best chance possibly to win that they have. But I am leaning Frankfurt in this one, and that's why I'm going to pick to come out of this region and win their third in a row here.
So I'm torn. I watched the first game. Frankfurt kind of took them on the second half. Onekama got them by 3 points in the second game in Frankfurt last month. So I'm going to ask you a question. So, McLain, as you see here, I have a nickel. Mm-hmm. His name's Phillip. It's a girl nickel. Anyway. So, I want you to pick. Which side is Frankfurt? Which side is Onekama? Is it heads, tails? Pick me, man.
Onekama's going to be tails.
All right. You see the coin being flipped? We got tails. So remind me to make sure tails was who again?
Tails was Onekama.
All right. I'll roll with the Porters here in a tight one.
Okay.
That's literally how I feel about these two teams right now.
Okay.
So...
Yeah, man, yeah. I don't blame you. And I do want to apologize, people. I forgot about that second matchup. They did not just meet once. And Mitch, you said Frankfurt had won that one as well, right? But that was a much tighter battle, or
Onekama won by 3.
Okay. I do think I'm going to stick here with this one here and lean Frankfurt. I think when you look at just sort of the experience there, again, that's kind of where I always lean here in these games. I think Frankfurt kind of edges them out in that category, but this is going to be extremely close. It's going to be extremely close.
People want to watch.
Now, the next up here, we have another boys district, which is hosted by Mason County Central. That is where Manistee boys basketball is going to be. And the opener in that tournament is Manistee versus Shelby. Obviously, on the Manistee side here, you're going to want to keep an eye on Caden Cott, Austin Halcombe, Jacob Sharp, Jeff Huber, Ethan Edmondson, and kids like that. Mason Gunnett's also been showing up really nicely for them as well lately. Now, these two teams met 3 nights before Christmas Day in 2022, with Shelby winning 64-38 at Manistee. That was prior to, in my opinion, that was prior to Manistee discovering their identity. Just recently they've won 4 out of the last 7, and they just kept it extremely close against Montague yesterday, losing 38-36. I think this team is on the come up, and I'm not sure if anybody's going to be shocked by this, but I don't think the first matchup between these two squads was indicative of where Manistee is now. Now, that might be true of Shelby, but obviously we don't get to see them on a regular basis, and so just from what I'm able to see, I think Manistee is a really improved team, and I think they're right there playing team basketball, finding out what works within their personnel. Zach Bialik deserves a round of applause here. He's done an amazing job. Once that losing streak was broken, it was like the floodgates opened with this team. And, I do not think that Shelby is going to get this team again. I've got Manistee moving on here.
Yeah, I got Manistee winning too. Fun fact about Shelby, really streaky team. Started the year 0-5, then went on a 5-0 stretch, then lost 6 of 7. Now they won their last 5. So which Shelby team are you getting? Still give me Manistee though.
Okay. Which that would put us in our semifinal game here, which would be Manistee versus Mason County Central. These teams met to open the regular season on Manistee's home floor, with County Central winning 70-45. That was December 6th, Mitch. For me, I think this is where the train stops for the Manistee Chippewas. Mason County Central, from what I understood about that particular night and learning about that County Central team, this is a senior-led team with size, physicality, and a solid bench unit. And I would assume that collectively they've only improved since then, considering their 14-7 record here. And I think their experience in playing time together over the years, because a lot of these teams, they play a long time and together, and that coach. And another reporter that was there that night let me know that these guys have been playing together for years, and this is sort of their final send-off. I think it's going to be much closer than before. I would not be surprised to see this game tied at halftime, but I do think Mason County Central is going to pull away in the second half. Mitch?
Not a lot of people believe in Manistee to make a really deep run, do they? They don't, do they?
I don't think so.
Well, crazy things happen in March. Mason County Central may win this game 9 times out of 10, but I got this really, really weird feeling, and it may be that I undercooked my eggs this morning. I don't know, but I got Manistee winning this one. They felt that MCC punch right out of the gate. MCC is beatable. MCC so far has, as of time of recording, have lost 3 straight. If MCC does not have that kill switch, if they just tread lightly, like just try to tread water against the Chippewas, they ain't walking out of that with a win. Give me Manistee, pull the upset.
Okay, well, Mitch, I'll let you take over here. I did not. My pick is Mason County Central wins this district. So, Mitch, I'll let you, take it from there and tell me what's going to happen.
Yeah, so White Claw and Hesperia's matchup inside the district. Hesperia's got 3 games this week. Those legs ain't going to be very fresh, even though they got some time in between. But give me White Cloud in that matchup, and then give me the Chippewas to beat White Cloud.
You got the Chippewas raising their first district title trophy since, I believe, 2007.
Why not? Okay. Why not this group? Why not? This team snapped a 30-game losing streak this year. Yeah, like I mentioned out of the gate with this segment, do you think, honestly, MCC, Hesperia, White Cloud, or Shelby is honestly going to take this team seriously? They know the history with this program. They know the fact they see like a 5-14 record. No. If every other team in this district plays down to them, which they should not, because they found their groove, they found their mojo. They can keep up with your track meet. They can grind out a low-scoring game. Give me Chippewas here. Why not? Why not Manistee?
Okay. Yeah, no, I don't think it's unbelievable. I just think Mason County Central is the best team in this district. I think that maybe Manistee got matched up on the wrong side of the bracket here, and if they were on the other side, maybe I'd have them in the finals as well, with definitely a great shot to beat an MCC team. And they still do have a good shot. I just think that when you talk about more than half of their starting lineup being seniors, that's a lot to handle for any team. especially when they've been playing for a long time. And I don't know specifically because the MHSAA website only lets you go back so far. But just this, beating Shelby would be the team's first playoff win since before the 2009-10 season, as well. Just so people understand how far back that goes. I'd have to check in over at the school to figure out when that was. But the MHSAA only lets you go back to 2009. Our next boys basketball district here, which is hosted by Lake City, puts us directly in the seat of Benzie Central versus Lake City in that opener. Benzie currently is 11-10. Lake City is 3-18. Players to watch for Benzie are a boatload here with kids like Jackson Childers, Miles Pritchett, Tegan Schicky, Rowan Zickert, Grayson Converse, Andrew Gray. The bench goes on as well there. I don't think there's much to say about this opener, being that Lake City is a little down this year. I've got Benzie Central moving on here. I think when you talk about their size, their verticality, their strategies and imposed from Josh Crocker, who uses extensive analytics to run what he believes to be the best offensive and defensive game plans that he can come up with, the Huskies move on and keep their season alive here. Mitch?
I don't see Lake City having an answer for Jackson Childers, let alone anyone else on that roster. So give me the Huskies.
Which, that puts us smack dab in a semifinal game here. Benzie Central, 11-10 overall, like we said. Traverse City St. Francis, 18-3 overall. The last time these two teams met was March 11th, 2022. Benzie Central beat St. Francis 70-57 to win a district title. Benzie Central was on top of the world the last time these two teams met then. The very talented senior class had just unseated them and winning that. But this year they look a little different after graduating nearly 10 seniors, but they remain organized, talented, and competitive. At times, they've reminded me of that team from last year. But other times, their inexperience and youth have shown through, in my opinion, and I think St. Francis is going to be a bit too much to overcome. The Gladiators move on.
Yeah, we talked about last week about how St. Francis is apparently good at everything. When you have a program with those kind of standards and your season ended the way it did last year, and you got a chance to get revenge on that team, that's going to be a tough battle, I feel, for the Huskies. So I'm with you. Give me the Gladiators here. So that'll set up what? St. Francis and Maple City Glen Lake?
Yeah, well, Glen Lake's going to have to take care of business on their side of the bracket, but I believe that they will. Off the top of my head, I can't remember who their matchup is, but these are the two best teams in the district. Between these two teams, there's 35 wins and just 7 losses. I mean, this district finals, if Glen Lake makes it there, if St. Francis makes it there, it's going to be a heck of a showdown. I don't even feel comfortable putting my stamp on it. I haven't seen these teams too closely this year, but that's going to be a battle. I mean, people in attendance for that game are going to get their money's worth.
I put my coin away, so I'm going to be quiet on that one.
All right, Mitch. Well, yeah, that brings us to the end here of our districts for the boys.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can't believe basketball season's almost over. Now we're almost ready to start baseball and softball and track and golf and soccer and tennis and woo! That'd be some busy times here, but I'm all for it.
Basketball season goes by so quickly, and it feels like there's a million games a night. With the 14 teams, if people, between the two counties that we cover, 14 teams that we have to keep an eye on here, and so it's always fun to break these down. But moving on to the one last thing here, Mitch. I'll let you take the floor here. Mitch has got some more NFL draft advice for us.
Yeah. So obviously, in today's NFL, you need guys on the edge, right? You need pass rushers to get after the quarterback. That's kind of why the top 2 teams in the NFL in sacks made the Super Bowl this year. Philadelphia was 1 and Kansas City was 2. Here's a guy I think, may be able to slide underneath the radar, but when you look at his measurables and you look at the way he plays and the way a team could utilize him, might just be the find of the draft. So, let's go back a couple of years. Micah Parsons out of Penn State, right? We thought, okay, this guy's good, big linebacker, 6'3", 246, and a 4'3", 940. Okay, kind of an athletic freak, but what do you do with him exactly? Penn State kind of kept him, and your traditional Mike linebacker looking at 4.25, but they brought him off the edge and let his speed do everything else. Well, the Cowboys ultimately drafted him at 11, and they used him strictly on the edge. And all of a sudden, he's had at least 13 sacks in his first 2 years, and he's been a revolution. I'm going to talk about a guy named Trenton Simpson out of Clemson, who I think may be able to fit in that same mold. May not have the same production out of the gate, but he's someone who can play that role. So, how big is Trenton Simpson? Well, I mentioned Micah Parsons is 6'3", 246. Trenton Simpson is 6'3", 240. We don't know his 40 time yet because the combine starts on Thursday, which is going to be a binge occasion for me. I cannot wait. But Trenton Simpson, also the son of a command sergeant major who spent 17 overseas tours with the U.S. Army Rangers. So the kid's got discipline in him. But also, though, I see the fact that Clemson used him the same way Penn State used Parsons. They used him back in the 4-2-5 scheme. He's one of those two backers right in the middle, trying to navigate everything. His speed takes over, shoot the gap, goes sideline to sideline. When they put him on the edge, on the perimeter of a defense, and let his speed take over, a quarterback literally gets the ball, down to the 1,000, who's that guy? Bam! Over. Done. This guy's really good tackler, too. Really solid in pass coverage, so... Yeah, remember the name Trenton Simpson out of Clemson, especially if his 40 time flirts around about 4.45. I mean, this class is kind of loaded with edge rushers, but we'll see what happens with Trenton Simpson. That's a guy who I think the Lions may be looking at 18 or maybe one of the 2 second-round picks. So, yeah, keep your eyes on Trenton Simpson out of Clemson.
Yeah, man, I mean, the Lions have... It's going to be interesting to see what they do with that second pick, and I think that's mostly where your focus has been. I think that's the more interesting pick, and they could go multiple directions with that. We'll see where they go, and I think Mitch has been doing a good job throwing out some good names here. My one last thing, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I'm not going to give you all the analysis in the world. I'm going to try to make you some money. Detroit Tigers over-under, 68.5 wins this year. Hammering the under. The Detroit Tigers haven't picked up anybody worth a damn. In the free agent market. Everybody else has been spending money, and my least favorite part about baseball when it comes to bad teams is that this is an uncapped league, and guys don't want to spend money. You saw the Tigers basically take themselves out of the depths of the last team in the league at one time with Alan Trammell at the helm and going to the World Series. You know how they did that, Mitch? It paid people. They paid people a lot of money. And Mr. I wanted to win. He wanted a title here, and he did everything in his power to get it. And I do not believe that his children, who he left behind and in charge of the team, care to do the same thing. Their moves don't tell me that they do. And it's just, quite honestly, it's embarrassing, and I wish Detroit Tigers baseball was better, but they're going to be bad again this year. And after winning 77 games or 78 games 2 years ago, they come back and they win 66 with a roster that was supposed to be improved with 2 of the hottest names in baseball, with Spencer Torkelson and Green. It's just like, is it going to be better this year? Clearly Vegas doesn't think so. I'm hammering in the under here, Mitch.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair line, I feel, with the over-under for wins and losses. Yeah, I don't know too much about the Detroit Tigers, even though a buddy of mine from CMU is their beat writer for the Free Press. But, I mean, it's going to be an interesting year. I mean, how many injuries did they sustain last year? How many underperformers did they have? I mean, kind of like Murphy's Law. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And then also, we want to talk about coleslaw. Do you know what that is?
No, I do not.
Oh, it's cabbage and dressing. I had to know, so I had to do it. So but no, I mean, I'll still be watching Tiger games at summer nights. I mean, how could you not? So.
Oh, great! Yeah, I tune in. It's just I don't know if it's enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up this episode. Anything else you need to get off your chest?
That's it, man. I'm ready to wrap this one up. Another good episode here, I think, wrapped up. People pay attention to those boys' districts, man. People are going to be getting hyped up here next week. I'm excited. It's
going to be a fun ride. The best part about this is I've been able to track it the whole season and not literally get dropped in the final 3 weeks.
That's true. That's true. That was fun.
For those who don't know, I started here in Valentine's Day in 2022. Now, basketball season starts in December.
Mm-hmm.
So I got dropped in the last 2-3 weeks. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, who's doing who's doing what. Again, 14 basketball teams, and I got literally 14 work days to figure it all out. So now it's been fun this year. I'm excited for it. But let's just wrap this episode here. For McLain Moberg, I'm Mitch Vosburg. Y'all be safe, and most importantly, keep your stick in the ice.